I'm Angie Heiss, and this tall tale is called Jonathan and the Booger. Now, this story is disgusting, but it's true, mostly. It's the story of Jonathan, and it happened many, many years ago in my 5th grade in my elementary school in Los Angeles. Jonathan became a folk hero. He was a folk legend, not just in our school, but throughout the country. Now, every 5th grade has its Jonathan, and ours was a world-class nose picker, and he didn't even know it. Every day after lunch, we would file back into our classroom. We would take our seats, and our teacher, Mrs. Kramer, would start a math lesson at the blackboard with her back to us. Now, it always seemed that it was after lunch when Jonathan did what he did best. Why after lunch? I don't know. Perhaps the act of chewing had stimulated his nasal secretions. Now, Jonathan was angles and bones. He was like a spindly stick insect. His feet were long and skinny, his hands were long and skinny, his fingers were long and skinny. And we'd all watch as slowly, he would get this faraway look on his face, and then he would move his right hand across his chest. And then he would extend this 2-foot-long index finger and slide it into a nostril. We were mesmerized. And then we'd watch it kind of wriggle in a circle. Mrs. Kramer was still at the front of the class with her back to us, and Jonathan was in a dream world. And then it happened. That day, Jonathan extracted the gooeyest, greenest, slimiest booger any of us had ever seen. It must have been 2 feet long. And then instead of just rolling it with his thumb and forefinger, which is what he usually did, he had to use both hands to pull it and shape it into a ball, and pull it and shape it and pull it round and round and round. It was like a taffy pull. There were 32 sets of eyes in that classroom watching that booger roll, round and round, round and round, round and round. And when it had morphed from its original slug-like shape into a perfect grayish-green orb, Jonathan opened his mouth. Well, that's an understatement. He didn't open his mouth. It was as if his bottom jaw unhinged like a snake and fell on his chest. His mouth opened colossally, and then he took this tennis ball-shaped booger, this mega booger, and popped it into his mouth. He then rolled it around, savoring the saltiness for a few seconds, and swallowed. We all watched this round shape pass down beyond his Adam's apple. We were dazzled. We'd never seen anything like this. In our eyes, Jonathan had just won the gold in the Booger Olympics, and he didn't even know it, and we couldn't contain ourselves. We stomped our feet, we clapped our hands, we cheered, and Mrs. Kramer turned around and scowled at us, and we faced forward. Now, we had seen the miracle happen, and those of us who were there were asked to tell the story over and over, and word spread throughout the city, and then some. Today, there are very few of us left to actually witness this, and I just had a journalist from the LA Times interview me about 2 years ago, and he asked me if I knew what had happened to Jonathan. And I said, unfortunately, all of us had lost contact, didn't know where he was today, but I said I hoped that with his dexterity and with his savory palate, perhaps he'd become a microbe brewer or maybe even an executive chef. All I knew is that I was there when a legend was born and when the miracle happened. Thank you, Jonathan.